All right, guys. So welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to kind of have a new format. So typically on this channel, if you're new here, I basically just play games. I kind of just have fun with games, things like that. I do a lot of gameplay stuff. So I'm more into older games. I've been playing a lot of newer games lately. I just kind of switched up in and out between the different types of games that I play, right? But today I'm going to kind of start a new series called like Rants, where I kind of rant about things that I care about or that annoy me or just things that I want to talk about and get out into the ether. You know what I mean? Just, yeah. So today we're going to talk about gaming because it's kind of like my all time passion. It's what me and my friends have been doing since we were like 6 years old. You know, it's the hobby. It's the thing we use to get away from stuff. It's something that I really care about. And today we're kind of going to go into what makes a game good and what makes a game bad and the things that are going on in the industry that everybody notices. Like we all see it. And if you don't see it, then you're being pretty disingenuous with yourself, or you're just you have some sort of monetization value behind these things. Because if you were just completely honest with yourself, you could see what's going on. How gaming has gone from, how would I explain this? Like gaming has gone from, when I was growing up, they didn't make games to monetize, right? They made games to tell a story or to give an experience to people, to almost like push the limit on what technology could do in that as well. And now it seems like video games have been co-opted by people who just want to monetize gaming. Like and it's sad because these, like, people like me and probably people like you, if you're watching this, have grown up with games as a way to kind of not really escape, but get a break from all the mundane, like the mundane routines in life that you have to do, and then you go into a game and you can do things that you have never been able to do before, like fly, like just simple examples, like, or like if you look at Expedition like 33, like that game invokes a lot of emotions in people, and a lot of people have had their mind blown by that game. But yeah, okay, so before I get too off topic, because this is going to be like in a rant form, but I'm going to try to basically give you like three examples of really bad games and why they've failed in an objective way. There's obviously going to be cultural things that happen with these games too that did not help, but objectively, if you even remove the cultural, like political messaging and all these other things that they love to inject into games, just the game itself, we'll look at it objectively. Graphics, gameplay, blah 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 blah. We'll go on from there, and we'll kind of break it all the way down and just kind of diagnose in a general manner why these games failed in general, and just kind of the hubris behind these companies trying to, it's almost like narcissism at this point, that these companies will try to put out something knowing the backlash, knowing like they have probably so much data on what is successful in gaming, and it's like they are intentionally not doing that, intentionally not giving gamers what they want. And it's like, I don't know, it seems malicious at some point. So it's either you are doing it maliciously to push whatever you want, whether it be a narrative, whether it be a messaging, blah blah blah. We know how this goes. We've seen it, right? For anybody to deny it at this point, you're either just you're either monetarily being supplemented, or monetarily being given money to stand opposed to this, or you're just disingenuous, or you're on that side. It just is what it is, right? For anybody to be like, no, there's nothing going on, I'm like, dude, yes, there is. It's so obvious at this point. Okay. So we'll just kind of go into it. It's either they're doing it maliciously, or they're just not smart. It's just not good for business. As we've seen it happen so many times already, to where beloved games have been beloved games have been basically used. Like they use the nostalgia from these old games that, people like me who have been around for a long time loved and grew up with, and they use these games to push something new, and they completely change up the formula, and it ends up being terrible and not what the people wanted. And then they're like, wow, we could have sworn that we were going to, emotionally manipulate these people into giving us money while not giving them a good product, right? So before I get too far into the weeds, we're going to talk about a few different games. I'm kind of going to break them down in an objective manner. We're going to kind of leave the political and, you know, the culture war narrative out. Obviously, those things did have a factor, but in this, it's like it's not even relevant to these games why they are terrible and why these other games are awesome. So we'll dive into the three bad games first, and then we'll kind of circle around to the I think I'll do maybe two good games, depending upon what they are. So when they pop up, you guys will know, you guys will see. Some of them are very obvious on why they failed, and you guys know all these games. But we'll just kind of diagnose why this happened, what happened, and why these games would have failed regardless of the political messaging in them. So, all right, I'll see you guys in the video. So I took a survey of sorts of like my friends group, and there's roughly like 7 or 8 of us, and then I even asked my girlfriend on their opinion on what makes. I asked them something simple like, "What's 3 things that make a game great, and what's 3 things that make a game terrible?" And it all comes down. It was a common theme with everyone, and these are people that play all sorts of different games. Like my girlfriend plays completely different games than I do. My friends have a very mixed. We have crossover in a lot of games that we play together, but there's just a wide variety of people who play games. So, but it's always interesting. The top like 1 or 2 things is always story and gameplay, and is the game fun, right? So that's kind of the common theme in what makes games great. And I feel like that's just a common sense take, right? Everybody should be like, is this game fun? Do I enjoy playing this game? Is the gameplay good, right? And if companies can't even get the basic things down and they put these things out, I don't understand why they are even making games at this point. It makes me feel like they're just doing it to make money, and that's why games have become so soulless, right? So, and another big thing is I believe it's just the lack of innovation and the lack of risk taking in these developers. And I don't even know if that's like the people making the game's fault or if it's the like corpos, like the head of the corps that don't care about gaming. They just use it to make money off of gaming. Because I'm not going to blame the devs and the people making the games. I mean, I'm sure there are some, or maybe a lot. I don't know, but I don't think it's everybody who is like, let's make these terrible games. Of course, these people want to make good games because their name's attached to it, right? But a lot of times, I think it is just people not aligned with gamers trying to make games just to make money, right? So the lack of innovation, the lack of risk taking, and just playing it safe. They know this will work, but then it doesn't work, and they're like, what happened? Why didn't our game sell? Oh, I don't know. It would be common sense. You made a terrible game. It's not going to sell, right? So the first game we're going to look at is obviously freaking Concord, right? Just probably the biggest flop of the past forever in video gaming. Just the Concord. So we'll look at why this game failed in just general terms. Obviously, it was, a lack of originality, and it had a terrible story. Like you could just tell from like there are games that they're releasing now that you can just instantly look at. They have a certain look to them. They have a certain like vibe to them that you already know who's making these games, and that they're just going to be bland. Like it's the oversaturated, the over like cartoony, the over bright colored games that you know are just going to be filled with garbage. The gameplay is going to suck. It's just that type of vibe that they're trying to pressure. I hate that aesthetic now in gaming. It's like this like Marathon, the certain vibe to it. It's like, how do I explain this? It's almost like it's like artificial. Like it's not real. It doesn't have a soul to it. A lot of these games have no soul to them. And I know it's weird. You're like, oh, I'm not trying to relate it to like a soul as in some religious take. There's no beef to the porridge. There's no beef in like the soup. It's just watered down garbage. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's just there's no content to it. It's just something they're doing, and they're trying to push a like modernized aesthetic that just looks disgusting, and it's not appealing, and people don't like it. Obviously, Concord just flopped massively. Okay, so that was one thing. It was just a lame story, lack of originality, and it was just trying to put a price tag on a genre of games that is already so oversaturated for no price tag. Like once again, like I feel like this comes from the hubris of these companies and just the narcissism that they think they can get away with it. Like same with Marathon. You're gonna put a price tag on a market of just like that has free shooters in it that are already doing better than you. Like the narcissism that they have to think that this would work is just out of my mind. And that just kind of leads to a lot of different issues is that they think they can get away with these things. And then when they don't, it blows up in their face. Like they try to obfuscate and blame other things. Like they love to call gamers, incels and whatever. But dude, They love to call gamers all sorts of names when it's just literally regular people in the real world playing games. It's not like it's your everyman playing games. There's no like, obviously you're gonna have those people, but it's like those aren't the loudest voices. Like they're the ones like there's not a million incels buying your game. There's like a millions of regular folks that just love games. It's crazy to me how they just deflect so easily and just like, well, it's not our fault. No, I'm like, it is your fault. You're making a bad game. Very simple, right? All right, another thing about Concord is the character design. Oh, dude, what is wrong with these people making these characters? It's like, how do I explain it? It's like when cool, or it's like when uncool people try to make cool characters. How are you gonna try to make a cool character when you don't even know what cool is? You know what I mean? Like they made literally like a trash can as a character. They made like overweight characters. They made these insufferable, like weird, goofy looking characters. Nobody resonates with that. And if people do resonate with that, it's a tiny chunk of the population. It is not a general speaking. You're not targeting your like biggest audience, which is what these companies should be doing. They should be targeting the biggest, most general audience that they can to sell these games. Or if you have a game that already has its niche, stick to that, build up your base, and slowly change the game. You don't just make it. I'm gonna get off topic. We'll just kind of stay on topic. I was going to go into rant about a whole different game, but we'll just stay on topic with Concord. Just make a game that fits your niche slowly. Maybe if your game's good, it will garner a wider audience. You know, sometimes you're just stuck there. How about you don't ruin your game in the hope of making it so general and generic that now you lost your base? Like the business practices these companies do is just so bad. I don't get it. Like I've worked in a lot of different places and it's just you make a product for the customer. It's crazy. You make a product for the customer so the customer keeps coming back, the customer keeps buying it. It's like business 101. It blows my mind. And then of course, you know, you had the political messaging. It's just never good to like alienate an entire like it could be generally like people like to say it's like 35 to 50%, it's half the nation. You know, at this point it's probably even more than that. It's like 60 to 80% because based upon the sales of these games that have been failing, like it seems like it's a lot more than just 50%. These games are not selling well whatsoever. So it could be even 60 to 80% of people who are like, we don't want to hear these political messaging because you just want to play a game to literally escape and not have to deal with real life shit that is heavy and politicized all the time and pushed in your face and just like it's just egregious at this point that literally everything has to have this type of bullshit in it. Gamers want to play games to get away and enjoy themselves and have fun, right? So that kind of circles in. The gameplay was just boring. You saw it. Everybody saw it. It was slow. It was boring. It was clunky. It just wasn't fun. Yeah, you have better alternatives already in the market with faster gameplay, better looking characters, and just better story and just a more unique and innovative like systems to them. Like the game was just boring, slow. People weren't having fun playing it. And if people were saying they were having fun playing it, I'm sorry, you weren't. You're probably paid, or you maybe you just haven't played a good game. I'm just saying, man. Yeah, so that's like a low hanging fruit though, is going after Concord and like talking about why it was so bad, you know, because that game just was almost made to fail, especially during that time of when people were just tired of a lot of different things happening. It was just. Secondly, we'll talk about freaking Skull and Bones, the quadruple A giant, as they said. That right there should tell you how narcissistic Ubisoft is and why Ubisoft is in such a state that it's in. They were literally like, we're gonna make a quadruple A game, and you have that turn out. It was like one of the worst games they ever made. It's crazy to me how just inadvertently egotistical these people are, and that just kind of shines through in the games that they make, and that they're trying to tell you what you will like. I'm like, you need to listen to your gamer. You need to kind of humble yourself and listen to the gaming community, and then maybe there'll be some good grace. But I don't think Ubisoft is ever going to be able to get its good graces back, which is sad because Ubisoft made a bunch of great games. It's like how the mighty have fallen, you know? Yeah, and in saying like the first quadruple A game, like they almost set themselves up to fail. Like they set the expectations up to a quadruple A game, never before seen game, and then they gave us slop that nobody enjoyed. That was like a watered down version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, right? It's just like that sounds to me just like terrible marketing, terrible PR. Like, do not set yourself up to fail. I know that you're trying to hype your game up, but you gotta have some sort of levels of humble, man. Like the narcissism in this industry is insane to me. All right, so here's a good example of a good pirate game, right? Sea of Thieves, freaking amazing. Me and my buddy Mike played that for hours. It's got a somewhat repetitive like gameplay loop, but the game is just fun in general. And like the PvP aspect, knowing what's gonna happen, you never know what's gonna like you never know what is gonna happen when you go out on your ship with your boy. Are you gonna get attacked? Is there gonna be a freaking giant shark coming at you? Are you gonna get, the ghost ships are like, are they gonna come? Like it's been a minute since I played it, but I still remember that was some fun times me and him when we were dueling and we came across the ships and we were launching each other off to other ships, climbing up, sabotaging them, getting back off, like come back around. Like that's a good example of a pirate game, and that's not even a quadruple A game, right? Where they gave you, Skull and Bones, and it was just like a watered down version of like Black Flag with missing even some of the core aspects of that game, which is like the character combat, the shipboarding. It was just a boring game, and just the hubris of these people to try to say it's the first quadruple A game. Like, oh man, it's wild, like the narcissism in the gaming industry, dude. Like the game lacked any good progression system. There was no like replayability. It was just there. And it just comes down to that common theme again of the game was just not fun. You guys see what's happening here? You guys see if they make a good gameplay and an engaging story and a good playback loop and good progression systems and things that gamers actually care about, that the game will do well, right? It's a common thing that these games just aren't fun. It's almost like people play games to have fun. All right, now we've come to another one that's going to be so obvious to you guys. It's going to be Dragon Age Veilguard. This game, this game was a return to form, right? So not only that, but like if you when you see that almost like in cadence with each other from all these people, there's something going on. These people are getting paid to give games good reviews, and it's sad. Like there's no integrity, and then once again, I keep coming back to the narcissism. There's like no integrity in this industry. People will just say stuff to get money. So it's hard to even listen to any of the reviews. I don't even listen to any reviews anymore because I know that they're just all full of shit. I mean, there are probably some who aren't, right? I'm not going to say them all. Let me take that back. A lot of them are just full of shit, and you can't really tell who's like legit or not. So I'll just play the game myself. I won't even listen to any reviews. I'll be playing the game myself, and that's how I do it. So first things first about Dragon Age, man, the game is just cringe. Like, once again, it comes back to uncool people trying to create cool things, If you have never really experienced these type of things and you're trying to make it, that's why it comes off so like cringe and unnatural. You have people who are basically like socially awkward trying to create scenarios that can relate to regular people, and they're trying to make it seem like it when it's like it's hard because they don't have that in real life. They don't know how to interact with people and just be normal. That's why that game seems so like so cringe and so out of place and just weird, man. The whole all the dialogue, all the themes, like there was some good stuff in there. Like, there were a few of the followers that had okay stories, but it wasn't, it was basically nothing like what it used to be. It wasn't dark. It was like cartoony. It was like Disney, but more cringe. And then, of course, you have like the forced ideology injection, the self inserts from the devs and the people making it, where they always have to put themselves in the game so they can somehow feel seen. I don't think I've ever played a game, unless it's like an MMO when I'm making a character like myself. I don't think I've ever played a game where I need to feel seen. That's weird to me. That's socially weird from like weird people. I don't ever feel like I need to be seen in a game, unless it's an MMO and I'm making my characters. But in like a single player game, I don't like. I don't want to make a game and like I don't even know how to explain it. That's just like a weird thing for me where these people feel like they want to be seen. I'm like, that just shows me that in real life there's something going on. And I don't want to like go psychology. It just shows me that it's weird when people try to inject themselves into something. Not only was the like the dialogue and everything cringe, it was like condescending, like trying to preach to you, right? Just preaching things, oh, this and this, this is how you should be. Like, if you're going to make a game, you need to make it as even keel and as on like even ground as possible, because that's going to like you basically risk alienating a huge swath of people by trying to be overly like preachy in the things you say and condescending in the things you say. And these people think that that's normal, that they should feel this way. Like it's not normal to be preachy and condescending and try to talk down to people. And another thing is that the game was just very linear. You didn't have a lot of freedom. The game was just you go here, you do this. There's a little bit, but in general, the game was just very linear. You didn't have a lot of, you didn't have shit to do really. Like in general, the game didn't seem very fun. The first 2 hours, it's all new to you. It's kind of fun and everything, but after a while, it's just the same thing over and over again. And if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, you got shields, you got a whole bunch of random shit to get through. It just gets so mundane and repetitive. Like it's just not fun. And then another thing, the story just kind of disrespected the story. Like it didn't follow what it should have followed. It just kind of tried to remake it into what they wanted it to be. And it just made a lot of people mad because it didn't follow through with the story that was being built up in the last few games, right? Which is just you're just going to make your players mad. Like I don't understand how these companies just literally do things intentionally, not knowing that they're going to upset the player base, the people who have been loyal to you this whole time. It is such like bad business. I don't get it, right? All right, so that was 3 games that were pretty terrible. And it isn't even like the political messaging. It's just the games were terrible. The gameplay was bad. The story was bad. The characters were bad. The combat wasn't great. All those basic things make a great game, right? Even without all the other stuff, the games were just bad in general, right? So now we're going to go into 2 games that were awesome. 2 games that took the world by storm. And this is like no, this is going to be 2024. We're not really going to talk about 2025. The year hasn't been fully done. We got some good games though this year too, and some bad ones. But now we're going to talk about some 2024 games that were awesome. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the better games that came out last year. So obviously, one of the biggest ones is freaking Helldivers 2, man. When this game first came out, it was a worldwide phenomenon, dude. It was so crazy. If you did not get in on the beginning of Helldivers 2, you missed out on peak gameplay, man. It was so fun. Me and my boys spent like 400 hours in that game before, obviously, all the sketchy stuff started happening. But when that game first launched, holy crap, it was so good. I even had my girlfriend saying like for Super Earth, for democracy. Like she was texting me that stuff. The background of my phone was a freaking Helldiver holding up the flag with Super Earth in the back. Like it was just a movement. It was so good. I've never seen such a united player base and community behind that game. It was like lightning in a bottle, right? Amazing. So one of the biggest things about making a great game is having a great community, or a big community, a great and big community around it. So Helldivers 2 did that so well. You were on your freaking ship and you can see the entire world map. You could see where everybody's at. You felt like you were literally at war with all these other people all playing at once. You could see how many people were there, see how many people were on, how many people have been killing. You can see your stats on how many things, like how many Tyranids and how many automatons, and then like their social media, and they stayed on top of it with like the major orders where they would solidify the community, like Malevolent Creek, RP the boys in Malevolent Creek, you never forget, right? Like those types of vibes with those games where they create those memorable events, you still remember. Like I still remember fighting on that creek, and it was the fucking worst thing ever with all my boys, holding the line with them. It just creates those memorable like events. Another thing was like the highly addictive gameplay, like the gameplay loop was so fun, especially if you had people. Like me and all my buddies played that game, and it was just like every time we wanted to go in and keep pressing up to higher and higher and higher difficulties until we finally got to Helldiver, and it was just pure chaos. Every single mission was just high intense chaos. You had freaking like 5 Bile Titans chasing you, and then 4 Chargers, and then the freaking little stalkers everywhere. It was just pure chaos. The game's still awesome. We haven't played it in a while, but the gameplay was just amazing. And you had a wide variety of, of weapons that you could use, like the railgun when it was OP, you could just blast them. Like I was definitely a railgun Andy when I was taking things out, like one-shotting Chargers and one-shotting Bile Titans. It was amazing. And not only that, but like to get things down, the input command, it was very unique. We had to, type in the inputs to get things like that. That's a cool mechanic that's not in every game. Like that reminds me of Legend of the Gaia, where you basically had to input, commands to create moves. And I thought that was awesome that they brought that in. It kind of made you a little more engaging, a little more high intensity when your buddy died and all of a sudden you're scrambling to input the things and like throw them out, like things like that. It just made the game more intense and more like intuitive. And I mean the comedy and the humor of the game, even though it's satire, even though it's like, based on Starship Troopers and then some other vibes with it, like the humor, like the opening cinematic makes you smile and laugh. It makes me smile and laugh even now. Just the over the top humor of the game. There's been so many things in the game that are just humorous and they just make you smile, and it kind of endears the game to you. Not and it's funny because in the beginning one you're watching him do his thing, and then his family gets killed by a freaking Tyranid, and all of a sudden, it's like this is horrible, but you're laughing at it, because it is satire and it is. And even though they did have some monetization in it, it felt like there was value because you had to grind for it still. Like it it all kind of looped into each other, and it wasn't that expensive. I mean, they kind of took advantage of it later on, obviously, which we know what happened with the whole fall of Helldivers. But at the beginning of Helldivers and why it was so successful at the beginning, man, that was insane. The game was, in the end, fun, right? Common theme here. The game is fun. All right, so now we're going to talk about another game. This game was freaking sweet. When this game first came out, we're going to talk about Black Myth Wukong and the character assassination that they tried to put on it, and we all know how that turned out. So it's kind of crazy. There's a lot of stuff behind it. It's a Chinese game. Western developers feel threatened. Of course, they're going to try to attack this game, but this game withstood that and just exploded. The game was freaking amazing. So we'll kind of dive into Black Myth Wukong. So to start off, the game looks beautiful. Like the visuals are amazing, the sound effects are amazing, just the graphics are on another level. And not only that, do they have great graphics, but the gameplay matches that, where it's so smooth, it's so clean, and it's like there's no sluggishness. You feel everything you do in like Black Myth Wukong. And like the cinematics too, it's almost like it's an epic, like it's a cinematic feature. There's such big gods and there's big fight scenes, and you're in there, you are Sun Wukong. Like the gigantic cutscenes, the sprawling scenery and the gods you're fighting. Like I remember the opening scene when you're fighting your brother and there's all the gods up and it's just gigantic, and were you fighting on clouds or were you fighting on like water? Whatever you're fighting on, because it's been a while since I played it, but it was amazing. And it also introduced a new idea. It was like Chinese mythos. So in Western games, they don't really dive into like Chinese mythos of like Sun Wukong and a lot of different gods and things like that. So it added kind of something new to the ecosystem in the West that people really enjoyed. It's just not something that we're used to. Like we see the Greek god and the Roman god and like a lot of these different things, but we never really see, and we do see Japanese a lot. We don't really see a whole lot of Chinese influence as far as their mythology in Western games. I would basically call this game like the Chinese Dark Souls, the monkey version, right? Like it had incredibly hard and challenging bosses. Like I remember when I first started playing that freaking big-headed boss in the woods before you fight like the guy with the flaming sword, or like the flaming double-sided swords who you can eventually turn into. That big-headed goofball. I died to him like fucking 5 times before I finally got pissed and finally locked in and killed him. But I was like, oh yeah, I'm like blowing through this game. And then you meet that dude and he slams his head on the ground and he screams and he does all this other crap. And I was like, it's pissing me off. But once you beat him, the reward is what? You feel great. You got, I think you get him as like a summon where you can slam his head down. Yeah, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But it's just things like that. Like the game is just hard, but it's not unbeatable. It's a challenge to you. But that's the thing about games too, is that you should love a challenge because it's fun. Like I'm not just playing a game unless I'm playing a specific game. Like what you get with Black Myth Wukong. It's going to be a challenging game, but in the end, it makes you feel rewarded almost. It makes you feel like you got better at the game or you got lucky sometimes, yeah. But it just makes you feel good that you beat that challenging aspect of the game. So another cool thing is that Black Myth Wukong had like rewarding combat. Like once you learn the systems and you learned how to play the game, you felt like you were getting better and you can actually handle things better. And it had, different builds in it. You can do a variety of different builds in that game because it had a lot more in the skill tree that you can build about your specific playstyle that you like. It gave you a lot more freedom to experiment, which is always awesome in any game. And in the end, it just gave you kind of a unique story on Sun Wukong that Western audiences just didn't know. And in the game is just, once again, the game was just fun. And that came from all the gameplay elements and all the other stuff coming together to make the game enjoyable. All right, guys, so this wasn't really like some complex deep dive. It's just me wanting to like talk about what I like and give you kind of examples of what makes a game good, what makes a game bad. I mean, not everybody's going to feel the same way. It's not like it's some in-depth guide to the the complexities of games, like I don't think it's that challenging for these companies to know what makes a game good. I feel like it's pretty obvious. You just make an engaging story, you make good, crisp gameplay that's enjoyable, and you make a good progression loop that keeps players wanting to play. That's literally it. That's all you need to make a good game. Good gameplay, good story, and engaging. And I mean, there are other little things like the characters can't be just overly ugh. Like make good characters too. But if you have these three, I think people can get away with the characters not being that great if they're just mid, but if the game's great. But if you have all three of these ones where the story's good, the gameplay's good, and there's a good progression loop that keeps you coming back playing it, you'll have a great game and you'll do well, right? And the common theme in all these things is very simple. Is your game fun? Do you have fun playing this game? Do you think other people will have fun playing this game? If the answer is no, then you shouldn't be making games. You know, you should humble yourself and be like, hey, maybe we should stop monetizing these things. Maybe we should stop pushing slap out into the ether because it's ruining games. Just make fun and engaging games, and gamers will buy it. It's that simple. You know what I mean? It's not some complex thing that you need to freaking do years of research on. It's common sense in business 101. You make a product that people like and enjoy and is good, people will buy your product. Okay? All right, guys. It's pretty simple. That was just a little rant, just a little thing I want to go on. It's the first time I'm making one of these, so have mercy on me. I'm not trying to be divisive. I just love gaming, guys, and I just want games to get better. And it just seems like it's not going that way because of monetization practice, of greed. You know, they kind of inject greed and remove the artistic and the innovation from it, and it just makes me sad because I grew up with these things. They're really important to me and all my friends and even my girlfriend. And you know, a lot of people are just sad that this shit happens. They're just kind of co-opting it to make money off of. As with anything else, greed ruins things. So, all right, but you know, typically this channel is about gameplay, but I kind of wanted to get one of these out. So, I mean, if you guys liked it, if you guys are still here, you know, subscribe, comment, let me know what you guys think. It's just kind of a sad day. So, I didn't think this would make me sad now because at the end now I'm just thinking about stuff and it just makes me sad. But I mean, if you look out, there's no reason to be sad. You know, there's a pushback to all these things. There is a reckoning coming, I think. So it should be fine. But at the end of the day, just keep gaming. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.